Hey guys, and welcome to a showdown between two legendary warriors, or one legendary warrior I should say, Nico T, up against the meager Melon Lord, who is of course myself, under a different guise. And today we're going to be bringing the forces of the Lizardmen to the awesome dusty desert plains up against the Norscan forces. So that's a little look at my build, and yes, we are going to be showcasing what I believe is the worst unit in the Lizardman roster. Going to be very controversial, I am sure. So on your flank, we have some skink cohorts of javelins, very good up against Norscans. They have a ton of light armor in general, as well as a lot of kind of lightly armored giant monsters, mammoths, skin wolves, and the like. And in the central core, we're going for something I don't usually go for, but is very common in the meta, and that is triple temple guard, one of which is the Star Chamber Guardians, whose main job is me to protect the Slan Mage Priest of Light Magic, of course, coming in with bonus Time Warp, Fire's Protection, and Net of Amantok, as well as all his bound spells and items. This is a brilliant combination because you drop bonus Time Warp down on the Temple Guard, turns them to absolute lawnmowers, Fire's Protection as well. You blob these guys together, not much Norsca can do about it. In the back, we have double Sacred Croxagore as well. These guys are the awesome Earthbenders of the Total War Warhammer universe. Can be trying to counterpunch the enemy where possible, just experimenting with them a little bit here today. We also have Bastildon with Solar Engine on the right-hand side. And on the left, oh yes, it is the worst unit in the roster, the Bastildon with the Revivification Crystal. You may be telling yourself now, speaking to yourself, Robert Like a War, you are an insane mad man. This makes no sense whatsoever. It heals you. It's a gigantic, terrifying dinosaur. And those things are indeed true, and I don't think it's unusable or anything. I don't think there's any unit in the game which is pretty much like completely trash and unusable, but it is very bad all round, and that's because it's quite expensive and its ability isn't that great. So it does heal you 624 hit points, which seems like, you know, not a too shabby amount. And it has 7 casts as well, which seems pretty good, but it takes a mighty 60 seconds to recharge, and if you notice, most Total War battles don't last that long, so you almost never ever get to use all of the charges of this ability, and even when you do, like at the start of a battle like this, I don't want to cast it right now, nothing's injured, so you have even less time in a battle realistically to cast it. Normally get 2 or 3 max, which won't account for its huge value. We have double Pterodon Rise up in the skies as well to try and harass the enemy's back line, javelins and the like. And for my opponent's forces, he has the Beast of Tashnar hidden over on the flanks, as well as some Norscan Ice Wolves on this side. Main battle line is a mixture of Marauders and Marauder Champions. I like the bad to the bones Viking warriors in the front line. Chevroned up as well, should be able to trade relatively okay up against the Temple Guard. We also have Marauder Berserkers in the secondary battle line and some Marauder Hunter Javelins dotted through the back here. We have a couple of units of Familiar Warriors with great weapons. These guys are anti-large armor Sundren, so always very good up against the Lizardmen and their mighty dinos. We have a Shaman Sorcerer of Metal coming with Final Transmutation, I should say, Plague of Rust, as well as Scroll of Shielding. And leading the forces today, we have Frog the Troll King, a risky pick because Lizardmen can bring a ton of fire damage throughout, but at the same time, he's very good up against those large, scary single entity monsters. Has regeneration, and it looks like he hasn't brought his nasty little vomit attack, but he does have the Winter Tooth Crown, making people around him unbreakable. Of course, because of regeneration, he has weakness to fire, so that Bastildon instantly firing a shot in, doing some pretty big burst damage straight out of the gate. But we are going to be changing targets relatively soon, realizing he's probably just going to hide at the back and try to heal up his health where possible. So instead, we're going to focus down the Shaman Sorcerer of Metal, who doesn't have the same benefits of regeneration, you know, skin knitting back together, all that kind of tasty, juicy stuff. Pterodon Riders do fall back at this point. I'm trying to wait for the perfect opportunity to hunt down the Marauder Hunter Javelins where possible. There's only 2 units, so we should be able to get on them with relatively good effectiveness. And the Shaman Sorcerer of Metal has been shot down a little bit and kind of kept away from the main fight. But in come the Norscan warriors, rampaging forwards, a battle chant ripped from their lips as they hunt down the Temple Guard. They do counter-charge in there, but the Marauder Champions certainly going to do a fantastic job. We're in fact pulling back some of our forces over here to try and stabilise and ally ourselves with the Sacred Croxagore, who are going to dance over to these Berserkers. We do have a shield of the old ones coming down as well. Star Chamber Guardians probably want to move forward and get a little bit involved. It looks like the Bastildon with the Revivification Crystal is going to start doing so as well. Sacred Croxagore doing a fantastic job over here, beating the snot out of Berserkers, but unfortunately have been countercharged by Familiar Warriors, who are going to take them to Pound Town. In the central pocket here, things are going rather well. We have a bonus Time Warp popped on us, and as well as a Plague of Rust. Red Crystal has gone down to try and keep these Temple Guard alive, but a fat Final Transmutation comes down, as well as Frog in the mix. These Temple Guard and Sacred Croxagores are all of a sudden not doing so good at all. In the back lines, it looks like our Pterodon Rise did take a little bit of damage and a little bit of poke back to more the Hunter Javelins as well. We are going to be coming down with a banishment on these Hunters, trying to force them off the battlefield as quickly as possible. It looks like we're going to do some okay damage, nothing too insane whatsoever. Left-hand flank has been decisively won by a mixture of Marauders and Champions, and the centre is also being slowly lost by ourselves. Temple Guard doing a fantastic job, doing at least 30 kills despite the overwhelming odds against them. But it looks like the Sacred Croc score were focused down by Frog. Brilliant targeting so far by my opponent, really getting the Familiar Warriors where he needs them to be. This left-hand side is a different story. Double Temple Guard mixed in with their loyal, or I suppose they are loyal to him, Mighty Slann Mage Priest, doing a fantastic job mulching their way through some Marauders, and the Rev Crystal as well, doing a little bit of counter-charging. Over on the left-hand side, Skink Cohorts are nearly done for at this moment. Sacred Croc score, once again, didn't fare too great. I got them into a bad situation up against the Familiar Warriors. Great play by my opponent. Better targeting from him than by me so far. Although he does have some beasts attached now who's really just need to hop on top of the Solar Engine. And just as I say so, it looks like they're going to bound across the dusty plains and actually hunt down the Sacred Croc score, force them to completely shatter and not come back to the main battle. Balance power is against us at this point, and things are looking slightly rough. Things that are going a little bit well, though, is we're desperately trying to drop rocks on some of the hunters, doing some nice burst damage to them there. Should be able to chase them off the battlefield at this point in engaged combat, and they're trying to flee for their lives, but that's not going to do them any good up against the far more swift-moving Pterodon riders. A big fat shield of the old ones has gone down. Rev Crystal is going strong. Brandon's Time Warp has been popped on him. Looks like the Familiar Warriors are going toe-to-toe with the legendary Slann, not known for their combat prowess. Has been hit by a Plague of Rust as well, minus 30 armor, not looking too good there. However, a big fat Bronus Time Warp has gone down. Star Chamber Guardians and Temple Guard mulching up these Champions and Ice Wolves. Should be able to pull back to the central pocket and do pretty decent work. And the Basilion with Rev Crystal, with the Time Warp popped on it, is an absolute killing machine. Trying to prove me wrong. He's the greatest unit in the entire roster. Don't let that duck tell you anything different. Up to a mighty 30 kills. Or of Quetzal has been popped on him as well. He's actually going toe-to-toe now with the Familiar Warriors, with the support of the Star Chamber Guardians. It looks like we did pop a heal as well on something. Not sure what that was. Probably Temple Guard. It looks like it wasn't. I think honestly that's the best use of him. He's just healing up Temple Guard. He can technically bring back models, I believe, with his item as well. Or maybe that's just Apotheosis. Who knows? Pterodon Rise are hopping down on top of the Marauder Hunter with Javelins. It looks like they are going to be routed, and we've managed to take both of those off the field, and that's the best anti-large tools my opponent has at his disposal, apart from these Familiar Warriors, and the Familiar Warriors are starting to struggle. A big fat banishment trying to catch a big bucket ton of units. Unfortunately, it is only going to clip the Beast of Tashnar in the end, as my opponent did start to move out the way of it. Solar Engine is now still being chased off by those beasts, which is a good pickup. He's only got 10 kills, but done some nice long-range damage, and my opponent really can't afford him to come back into the fray. Familiar Warriors have now been terrified, which I do not blame them. Gary is on a rampage, but a fat final transmutation does come down, and this could be the nail in our little duck coffin. Sacred Croc score somehow managed to survive that, as well as these Temple Guard. It was an overcast, which was a bit of a blessing there from me. Slann Mage Priest once again has been hit by a Plague of Rust. Is just scooting his boot, trying to escape Frog where possible, and the more time Frog spends trying to hunt down the Slann, the more damage the Star Chamber Guardians will do to him. We have also managed to pop a shield of the old ones to give us a nice little bit of protection and boost up the morale, as the Slann was looking like he was going to be running for the hills there. And everything is being thrown in here. We brought back our Pterodon Riders as well, just to try and break this formation as much as possible. We have Temple Guard returning to the fray as well. Familiar Warriors have been popped with the Wintertooth Crown, but unfortunately we're already terrified, so that's not going to do them any good. But all these units are currently unbreaking. More Pterodon Riders are charging in as well, trying to get as many rear charges active as possible. And it looks like another hill has gone down, most likely once again. Oh no, it's on the Slann Mage Priest at this time, just trying to keep my leadership alive and happy. Pterodons are swooping around the combat at this point. Frog is now going to lose his bodyguards. A lot of these troops are very low morale at this point and being terrified off, and Frog's having to pull out here. There's simply too many angry Temple Guard in this central formation. Elsewhere around the battlefield, it's not too much to talk about, really. A few units have shattered off, and we have some skinks that we need to bring back. My opponent as well, very quick to bring back his routing troops in the form of these Familiar Warriors, and it looks like he's going to take the Norscan Ice Wolves to hunt down the skink cohort, so they cannot come in and support in the late game. And all the time the game goes on longer and longer, Frog is simply going to heal up more and more, and he's going to come in for a big old charge and thump in a few Temple Guard over, but that Slann Mage Priest is going to be rather a little bit scared here. Going to fall back behind the mighty Bastilodon, who does come in with a ramming charge into Frog. Temple Guard here is supporting as well. I think Frog needed to stay out of combat a little while longer. Yes, the Temple Guard are wavering at this point, only 4 models left on this unit, but still fighting. That is... You cannot get more loyal than Temple Guard. Even Dwarfs don't hold the line as well as these guys. 4 troops remaining and still deciding to fight there is insane. Frog has nearly been forced off at this point. He is wavering, but once again, he should be able to regenerate and heal up a nice little bit. Pterodons do swoop over him to just try and do a tiny bit more damage and break his leadership. Although if he swings back 1 or 2 times, the Pterodons themselves would probably be forced off. Frog down to 650 health, but he is now routing, which is really good news for me. I need to get the Pterodons up in the skies to chase him off, as it looks like in the center, the Slar Mage Priest has finally bit the bullet, down to just 500 health, and he's going to start running for his life. But there's still a lot of Temple Guard. These guys are loyal to the cause, not only loyal to the Slarn, so they're still going to be fighting here despite their Lord's retreat. Let's get some glorious close-up action on these. Temple Guard in general have some of the coolest animations and coolest models in the entire game. They're just going to be thumping these Marauder champions to death with their mighty halberds, cleaving them in twain. We have Pterodon Riders darting down on top of these Marauders, trying to break their leadership where possible, as it looks like they are hunting down the Slar Mage Priest. I really want to try and rally him where possible. Any spell he dropped could be absolutely pivotal, and it looks like once again Frog has returned to the fray. Only 29 kills on him so far, but he's still got plenty left in the tank if he is allowed to heal up. But it looks like my opponent is constantly trying to get him into combat, maybe a bit more worried about the rest of his troops. And there's 57 Marauder champions left. That is a scary amount of elite warriors to deal with our Temple Guard boys. Pterodon Riders once again darting after the Beast of Tashnar, which normally would be a really poor engagement for them, but we're so desperately trying to save this Slarn down to just 200 health at this point, -6 leadership, but it looks like the Beasts have been forced off by the sheer weight of the Pterodon Riders charge, and the Slarn has managed to rally. If we can come over here and pop a spell, and we do! We pop the Shield of the Old Ones, which is going to keep these 24 Temple Guard fighting. They were wavering, nearly broken there, but the shield has inspired them to greater feats of heroism. Vermeer Warriors have broken once more and are going to be forced back on the downside of these bad boys. Yes, they hit harder than Skin Wolves, but they don't have that regeneration. And the champions slowly getting dragged down by the Bastiladon. Although lovely play by my opponent, coming in with the Wintertooth Crown is going to ensure that they do fight to the death here, at least for the meantime. And Frog is really trying to pound down the Rev Crystal. Even the Shaman Sorcerer of Metal is getting engaged in hand-to-hand combat. We have a decent amount of Temple Guard left on the field here. In the distance, you can see the Beasts are going to be finished off by Pterodon Riders, which is good play by me there, just ensuring that those guys can't physically come back in the later stages of the game. And all of a sudden, the leadership of this guy is all heavily drops, but the Bastiladon does break, as well as one of the units of Temple Guard. Only 17 models left, wavering and breaking. Just the Star Chamber Guardians left alive for me, as the Slar Mage Priest also runs to the left-hand side. And both sides, basically everything breaks. We have some Pterodons fighting and some Temple Guard, and for my opponent, 1 unit of Vermeer Warriors. So we are going to be charging into them, I guess trying to break them as quickly as possible. Actually, no, we're trying to finish off this Shaman Sorcerer. Balance power has now crept into our favour, and disaster as the Gary here is fleeing quite close to Marauder champions. My opponent can now use them to chase him off and stop him coming back and healing troops, but it looks like he breaks on his own, and they're trying to get over near the Slar Mage Priest. This is an insanely close battle at this point. Frog is going to be regenerating in the distance, so running away isn't the worst situation for him yet, but if these Temple Guard are allowed to survive and he fights them on his own, even at full health at this point, he'd probably go down. And it looks like we have managed to rally some of our own Temple Guard as well. Slarn, though, has completely shattered at this point, so we are leaderless. But who is the mighty warrior to stand up and lead our forces in this darkest time? Oh yes, it is Gary coming in with the support heal there on the Star Chamber Guardians. Going to be topping them up quite nicely at this point. We're going to consistently chase down the Shaman Sorcerer. I don't want him to come back, cast any nasty spells, final transmutations, Plague of Rust, all that stuff that could interfere with the end game quite heavily. So we're going to be chasing them off for a little while here. Pterodons are going to be on the hunt, flying up into the skies, and they should be able to shatter him relatively quickly here. 1, they'll be doing damage to him, but 2, slowing him down, allowing the Star Chamber Guardians to catch up. It looks like Frog may run off the end of the battlefield. No, he does indeed rally, and he's going to be coming back in this last ditch effort of the battle, and it looks like the elite champions as well as the Vermeer Warriors are desperately trying to get over towards him, so I'm trying my best to intercept where possible. I cannot allow these guys to stack on top of each other and allow them to get boosted leadership from Frog being nearby, because Frog could pretty much two-shot this Bastiladon with Rev Crystal at this moment. So we're going to jump down on the Vermeer Warriors. My opponent realizes he can simply not catch up and meet Frog in time, so he does go down for a glorious charge. We do get the rear attack break in the leadership of these warriors, who are currently terrified, and in comes the Gary, slapping those Marauder champions to the ground, terrifying them away, roaring victoriously as the balance of power floods in the position of the Rev Crystal, and it shall be a Pyrrhic victory for the forces of the Lizardmen. Very well played to my opponent, Nico No T. I've seen him in a few tournaments recently as well. I'm not sure if he's new to tournaments or he's an experienced player, but either way, it's always good to have new people in tournaments, and he was a really nice guy and had a fantastic game all round. Very well played to him, and it was a good, fun game. I will break down all the damage value and damage dealt in just a second, but if you guys did enjoy, feel free to hit that big old thumbs up button. It really helps out the channel quite a bit. And also, if you subscribe, you get to see more videos. We do drop them every single day. If you want to see your replays up on the channel, feel free to join my Discord. There's a link down below. You can also get involved in tournaments we host. We have a live stream coming up this Thursday for a big, huge tournament called Death Before Dishonor, and you guys can join as well. As welcome to absolutely everyone. So yeah, for more information, join there, and if you want to support the channel, you can either become a YouTube member or join the Patreon. But anyway, enough of that, all that rumbling rubbish. Let's get into the damage stats. So for the force of Norsca, Frog was a bit of a menace. Only 29 kills, but he did do decent damage to Temple Guard as well as some of the larger entities. Really managed to beat down that Soul Engine and force off the Croxigors as well early on, those sacred ones, getting a whopping 1,700 damage value, which isn't the craziest in the world, but still pretty decent stuff all round. 8,800 damage dealt. I think my opponent just needed to chill out a little bit more with him so he could recover with that regeneration, sorry, I guess. With that little regeneration to kind of get him to max health. Not max health, but just a bit more health before coming into some of those key engagements. Lovely play all round by the Shaman Sorcerer Metal. Still a very core pick in general for Norsca, but in this matchup is absolutely pivotal. Plagueros helped drag down some of the larger, scarier creatures and do huge damage to the Slan Mage Priest. However, those final transmutations were really scary. If they were overcast, it could have been game over. Marauders did a relatively decent job, same with the Berserkers, despite the fact they did get pounded down by some of the larger entities, but at the same time, these Marauder Champions, really glorious pick, big fan of these guys here. 121 kills, nearly 9k damage dealt, 1,100 damage value on this one, 865 on that next, not too shabby. Unfortunately, the Javelins, one did okay, the other one, unfortunately, did really terrible for themselves, and got shut down by the double Terror on my opponent, kind of just leaving them in the back a little bit by themselves, getting a little over-eager with the rush, but at the same time, it almost paid off, so, you know. There's swings and roundabouts there. Beast of Tashnar did a good job as well as the Wolves, just chasing down units, and these Famir Warriors were an absolute menace, just butchering my Sacred Croxigor before surrounding some of the Bastildons. Now for my own forces, overall the Slan Mage Priest did a decent job, just kind of those buffs and debuffs, not really there to do the damage themselves, but the Temple Guard were so disgustingly good here. 11,000 damage dealt on this unit, 1,990 damage value, 1.5 on this one with 8k damage dealt, but the Star Chamber Guardians, absolute rock solid MVPs, despite the fact my opponent put 2 final transmutations down on my Temple Guard, and some points they got isolated and he really started to harass them with a ton of units in one go. They all still got amazing value. The Star Chamber Guardians, 135 kills, 17,000 damage dealt, and over 3k damage value is absolute insane. But one of the reasons they were able to get so much of this damage is because they were getting healed consistently through the battle from the Bastildon with Rev Crystal. Let's have a little look. It actually paid for itself. 1,100 damage value, 6.8k damage dealt, 62 kills, and got off 3 or 4 good hills throughout the battle. So maybe you're looking at me now and saying, Rubber Duck, you're a liar. This is an amazing unit. But overall, I still think it is the worst unit in the entire roster. Maybe tied with the Feral Cold ones, who I don't have a particularly high opinion of. And the Rev Crystal, yes, it can do good, but so can every single unit if you get a little bit lucky. And my opponent did target down all my other units instead of it. He wanted to shut down the Soul Engine, the Croxigors, the Slan, and kind of just left Gary to do his own thing. And if you leave him to do his own thing, he will do very well for himself. So an absolute linebacker here, MVP alongside the Star Chamber Guardians. Both of those guys really carried the day for the champ. So a good day for him, despite the fact I think he is unfortunately a little bit terrible, but don't let him hear me say that. The Sacred Croxigor unfortunately got absolutely butchered, just bad play. Well, not really say bad play by me. They got good targets in the form of Berserkers, but good play by my opponent. I want to give him credit. A little bit bad on mine for getting them trapped up against Famir Warriors, but nice targeting as well from Nico Note T. Pterodon Rise did their job, hunted down the Hunters, really forced them off, allowing other units to fare far better. Javelins are so key in this engagement, so shutting them down, even if you lose money doing so with Pterodon Rise, is always worth it. And the Bastildon with Soul Engine, despite the fact it got shut down rather early, still got some good damage value, 1,100, and over 5k damage dealt. Hope you guys did enjoy this battle. It was a super good, fun one. I may be doing a stream tomorrow. Maybe not. Unfortunately, I had a little bit of surgery on my foot today. So we'll see how we feel tomorrow. And if we feel good, I may do another stream. But if not, the next stream will be on Thursday. Hey guys, until next time, peace, peace. And as always, stay awesome.